Something powerful happens when you stay silent. Stoic Lavas. 1. When someone lies about you, let truth speak in silence. There's a bitter truth that each of us, at some point in life, must taste. Being slandered, falsely accused, or having malicious rumors spread to damage our reputation. When that happens, your first instinct is to scream, to defend yourself, to clarify everything in front of others. You want to shout, "I didn't do it." You want to present evidence, prove what's true. But in Stoic philosophy, that reaction, though deeply human, is often what causes you to lose your calm, and worse, hands over your power to the very person who lied. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Simple, steady, powerful. The story of James, when silence becomes strength. Let me tell you the story of James, a project manager at a major tech company. He was dedicated, always helping his colleagues, and highly valued by leadership. But that drew resentment from one of his team members, Mark, who felt threatened. So Mark began whispering behind his back that James was manipulating reports, acting, to gain favor with the bosses. When the rumors started to spread, James knew. He knew someone was trying to tear him down from the shadows. At times, he wanted to confront the entire team, to send out emails to his boss clarifying the situation. But then he remembered the philosophy he had followed since reading Seneca. Truth doesn't need to shout. So James chose silence. He kept doing his work, stayed calm, and never once mentioned Mark's name or fought back. Weeks later, the truth surfaced on its own. A colleague caught Mark editing shared documents to make it appear as if James had made mistakes. When it all came to light, Mark lost his credibility. James, he was promoted. James didn't win with words. He won with composure. Back to ancient Persia, power and restraint. Now let's travel back hundreds of years to Sassanid Persia. There was a high-ranking minister named Ardashir, renowned for his honesty and devotion. One day, he was accused of treason, conspiring with the enemy to weaken the empire. It was a serious charge, punishable by death. The court buzzed with suspicion. Many urged him to plead his case before the king, to bring forth evidence or at least defend himself. But Ardashir simply bowed and calmly said, "I have lived my life with loyalty. If words cannot protect me, let time do so." For months he lived in silence, stripped of title, removed from court. But then, as karma often moves, a servant of the accusing official drunkenly revealed the plot during a private feast. The king investigated immediately, cleared Ardashir of all wrongdoing, restored his position with full honors, and declared to the court, "A man worth trusting does not need to shout to defend himself. Truth always finds a way home." Why are we so quick to defend ourselves? It's instinct. When we're misunderstood, our sense of honor feels under attack. And for many, honor is worth more than gold. But the need to prove ourselves too quickly can become a trap. Defending ourselves often fuels suspicion. And the more we speak, the more our words can be twisted. The liar doesn't need truth. They need your reaction, your anger, your panic, your accusations. They need you to lose composure so they can justify their narrative. The Stoic doesn't fall for that. They know truth doesn't need to be paraded around noisily. Truth exists like gravity, unseen, but undeniable. The modern world, social media, and the temptation to react. In today's world of social media, one status update can spark a wildfire of reactions. Being slandered? Post a story. Misunderstood? Write a long explanation. But the strongest people I've met do something else entirely. They don't respond at all. And that silence, it makes the other side nervous. It's like a storm slamming against a stone wall. It dies down on its own. In the end, silence is not surrender. It's mastery. So, the next time someone lies about you, remember this. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to prove anything to be believed. You just need to stay true, act right, and wear your silence like armor. Karma will take care of the rest. Truth may take its time, but it never dies. It only waits for the right moment to shine. 2. When someone betrays you, turn pain into power. Betrayal, a word that slices deeper than most insults ever could. It doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those you once welcomed into your circle. Your confidence, your heart. And that's what makes it hurt the most. Maybe it was a friend who you once called family. Maybe it was a partner who whispered forever, then walked away with pieces of your soul. Or maybe it was a colleague, someone you stood up for, who stabbed you in the back the first chance they got. The pain of betrayal is unique. It's not just the loss of trust. It's the loss of a shared reality. One day, they were your ally. The next, your silence becomes the only thing you can trust. The story of Sarah, silence as a sword. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was a brilliant marketing executive. For 10 years, she built her career from scratch, with grit, vision, and relentless drive. Along the way, she made a best friend at work, someone she trusted with every high and low. Until one day, she didn't. Sarah discovered, almost by accident, that this very friend had been speaking behind her back, leaking confidential ideas to a rival company. Worse, she had manipulated situations so Sarah would take the fall for missed targets. Imagine that. 10 years of loyalty shattered in a moment of truth. Her first instinct? Rage. She wanted to confront, to scream, to show the world who the real traitor was. But something deeper pulled her back. She remembered a quote by Seneca: "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." So Sarah said nothing. No confrontation, no accusations, no scenes. She simply walked away. With silence so sharp, the betrayer didn't know what to do with it. Weeks later, the workplace began to shift. Without Sarah's help, the friend fumbled, exposed by her own incompetence. The same colleagues who once doubted Sarah now came to her defense. And her silence? It was no longer a mystery. It was power. Feudal Japan. A samurai's quiet revenge. Now, step back in time. Feudal Japan. A world of honor, steel, and silence. A samurai named Hiroshi served under a local warlord with absolute devotion. His brother-in-arms, Takeda, once saved Hiroshi's life. They had fought side by side for years, until jealousy poisoned that bond. Takeda, threatened by Hiroshi's rising reputation, began spreading lies. He accused Hiroshi of disloyalty, even fabricated evidence to make it appear true. Hiroshi was summoned before the daimyo, lord. He had every right to defend himself with fury, but he didn't. Instead, he bowed deeply and said, "My blade is yours, as it has always been. My heart speaks louder than my words." Then he returned to his training. He said nothing more. In the months that followed, Hiroshi worked harder than ever. He led missions with precision, showed discipline, and remained unshaken. Takeda, on the other hand, grew reckless. In a critical battle, Takeda abandoned his post, costing the army dearly. Hiroshi stepped in and salvaged the mission. That act didn't just redeem his name, it elevated him to commander. Takeda, he was cast out, his betrayal written in history's shadows, Hiroshi's honor engraved in the hearts of warriors. Why silence hurts more than words. You see, when someone betrays you, their goal is to disrupt your peace, your dignity, your direction. They want you to act out, to explode, to give them more proof that you're the unstable one. But silence denies them that victory. Silence is not weakness. It's restraint. And that restraint makes them question themselves more than any insult ever could. A betrayer expects chaos. They prepare for conflict. But what they're never ready for is the echo of being ignored. Here's the deeper truth most people don't realize. People who betray you, they often justify it to themselves. They rewrite the story in their mind until you become the villain. They have to, because otherwise, they would have to face the weight of their own guilt. That's why explaining yourself doesn't work. That's why asking why only makes it worse. Because they've already rewritten the script. And in their version, you're not supposed to be calm. You're supposed to break. But when you don't, when you refuse to react, to validate their actions, to even acknowledge their damage, you take back control. Today's lesson: choose growth over grudge. When someone betrays you, let them keep their betrayal. Let them live with the version of the story they created. You live with clarity. You train harder, work smarter, love deeper. And you never let bitterness bend your soul. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that pain is not the enemy. Attachment is. The more you cling to the need for closure, the more you give your betrayer power. But when you detach, when you let go, you don't just survive, you transform. Closing thought. What will you do with the pain? So ask yourself, will you carry the weight of betrayal, or will you let silence carry it for you? Let them write their false narrative. You write your future. And remember this: sometimes the most powerful revenge is no revenge at all, just success and peace. Three, when someone insults you, silence is proof of strength. There is a kind of battle that takes place every day, and it draws no blood. It's the war of words. No weapons, no fists, just a sarcastic remark, a mocking glance, a cleverly disguised jab. And if you react, you lose. Not because you're weak, but because you've handed over your emotional control to someone else. David and the silence that silenced the room. Let me start with a modern story. David was a young finance professional who had just been promoted to team leader at a major firm. He was diligent, visionary, and well respected by upper management. But not everyone celebrated his rise. At a celebratory team event, an older colleague, Tom, lifted his glass and said with a smirk, "Looks like they'll promote anyone these days. You just have to talk slick and flatter the right people." The room went still. Some people tried not to laugh. Others looked at David, waiting. Everyone expected a reaction. But David? He simply smiled. No anger, no comeback, no need to defend himself. He clinked glasses with a coworker and casually changed the subject. And just like that, the mood shifted. His silence not only diffused the attack, it made Tom look petty and insecure. In that moment, the man who said nothing had the loudest voice in the room. Ancient Rome, Marcus Aurelius, and the Quiet Defiance. Now, let's go back more than 1,800 years to the time of Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher king who ruled over the vast Roman Empire, yet never strayed far from his Stoic beliefs. Throughout his reign, Marcus endured endless criticism. Political opponents, ambitious generals, and even some members of his own court mocked his contemplative nature. They said he was too soft, too withdrawn, not forceful enough for an emperor. One day, a senator insulted Marcus publicly during a council session. The insult echoed through the room, sharp and personal. Marcus simply bowed his head and walked out, silent, unshaken. That night, in his meditations, he wrote, "If it's true, let me learn from it. If it's false, there's no reason to be angry." He understood something most people never do. Reacting to insults means giving away your peace. Ironically, the more silent Marcus remained, the more the public respected him. Not because he fought back, but because he didn't need to. His calm became legendary. And those insults? Lost to time. Why are we so easily triggered by insults? The answer is ego. Most of us don't fear the insult itself. We fear that others might believe it. Our instinct screams, "Defend yourself, set the record straight." And the more we try to correct the record, the more we validate the attacker's words. Insulters don't care about truth. They care about reactions. They want to see you flinch, raise your voice, get emotional, because then they win. They've pulled you into their game. The Stoic doesn't play that game. They understand that truth doesn't require noise, that inner peace isn't something to be traded for momentary pride. That dignity is often maintained not through words, but through restraint. Ancient China, a silent victory in the court. Let's travel to the Three Kingdoms period of ancient China. Sima Yi, a brilliant strategist, was often the target of jealousy. In one court meeting, a rival general openly called him a manipulative rat who rose through flattery, not merit. Sima Yi didn't blink. He nodded, smiled politely, and presented his battle strategy to the emperor without acknowledging the insult. After the meeting, the rival fumed. "Why didn't he say anything?" he grumbled. But that silence said everything. The emperor respected Sima Yi more for his calm. The rival, on the other hand, appeared small and insecure. This moment became legendary, not because of a sharp retort, but because of the sharp silence that left his opponent powerless. When to speak and when to stay silent. To be clear, there are times when you must speak up, especially when it's to defend others or to confront injustice. Stoicism is not about cowardice or avoidance, but when the insult is just bait for conflict, when it's crafted to make you react, then silence is your greatest weapon. A Stoic knows You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Sometimes, walking away is the highest form of self-respect. Conclusion. You are defined not by words, but by your response. The next time someone insults you, pause. Look them in the eye. Ask yourself, does this define me, or does it reveal more about their insecurity? And if you choose silence, let it be a silence born from strength, not fear. Let it be the kind of silence that makes others question their own noise, because truth doesn't need defense, and dignity doesn't need to shout. 4. When someone plays the victim to manipulate. The Stoic response. Some battles are not fought with swords or words, but with manipulation. You know the type. Every time you raise a concern, they act wounded. Every boundary you set becomes an attack. Every consequence turns into injustice. These people don't seek truth, they seek control. And their weapon of choice? Victimhood. It's a dangerous game because it uses your empathy against you. You want to be kind, you want to be fair, but suddenly, you find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, explaining things you never intended, and defending your own sanity. Let's start with a modern example. Rachel, a project manager at a marketing firm. One of her team members, Nina, consistently missed deadlines and avoided responsibility. Every time Rachel brought it up, Nina would burst into tears or spin the story to make Rachel seem like the aggressor. She'd say things like, "I feel attacked," or, "Why are you always picking on me?" At first, Rachel tried to reason with her. She showed proof, softened her tone, even apologized just to keep the peace. But nothing changed. The manipulation continued. Until one day, Rachel stopped. No more justifications, no more arguments, just quiet, steady leadership. Over time, others started to notice the pattern. The same behavior repeated. Always the victim, always the drama. Eventually, management intervened. Rachel never had to raise her voice. The truth revealed itself. Now step back 800 years to a medieval monastery in France. A humble monk named Thomas was accused by Brother Elias of hoarding manuscripts and favoring the abbey elite. Thomas, known for his wisdom and restraint, said nothing. He neither defended nor accused. He returned to his duties in silence. Months later, a traveling scholar exposed Brother Elias for selling rare texts from the library, an act that had falsely been blamed on Thomas. Justice was restored, and Thomas was later appointed head scribe, not because he fought, but because he didn't. So why do these victims have such power? Because they weaponize emotion. They exploit your instinct to explain, to correct, to fix. But when you engage, you give them fuel. You validate their performance. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "To complain is always non-productive and never appropriate." He wasn't encouraging silence out of fear, but silence out of clarity, out of wisdom. The truth doesn't need your defense. It needs repetition. And manipulators can only repeat their lies so many times before people begin to see the pattern. So the next time someone plays the victim, don't argue. Don't try to explain. Let them spin their story. Let them seek their audience. And you remain still, like a mountain unmoved by storm. Because when the dust settles, only one thing will be left standing: the truth. And the person who refused to be manipulated by guilt, that's the person others will trust in the end. Part 5. When you're undervalued, let your absence speak. There is a unique kind of pain that doesn't come from conflict, betrayal, or insult, but from being invisible. You give, you show up, you support, you care, but somehow it's never enough. Your presence is taken for granted, and your efforts overlooked. The more you try to prove your worth, the more you seem to vanish. This is the silent suffering of being undervalued. It happens in families, in friendships, at work, and even in love. And when it does, your first instinct might be to do more, to overextend, to bend further, to shine brighter. But here's a difficult truth that the Stoics knew well. The more you try to convince others of your worth, the more you devalue it. Let me tell you a story. Jake was a brilliant software engineer, the kind of man who quietly fixed bugs after hours, mentored new hires without being asked, and picked up slack when others dropped the ball. But no one really noticed. Not the managers, not the teammates. He was dependable, and because of that, he became invisible. One day, Jake made a quiet decision. No announcements, no complaints. He simply stopped doing the extras. He clocked in and out on time. He stopped solving issues that weren't his. He remained professional, but he withdrew his silent support. The result? Everything started to crumble. Projects stalled, communication suffered, and people finally noticed the gap he left behind. His absence echoed louder than his presence ever had. And that's when the recognition came. Not because he begged for it, but because he removed himself from where he wasn't valued. Now let's travel back in time to the ancient city-state of Athens. There was a philosopher named Anaximenes, a student of Thales. He contributed greatly to discussions on natural philosophy, but was consistently overshadowed by louder, more political voices. He spoke only when necessary and often received little credit. But one year, during a heated political crisis, it was his calm logic and wisdom that saved the assembly from rash decisions. People finally saw his value, not because he demanded it, but because his quiet wisdom, once removed, created a void that chaos could not fill. Seneca once wrote, "Time discovers truth." The same can be said of your value. If it goes unnoticed in your presence, let your absence be the mirror. Here's the hard part, walking away. Not with resentment, but with clarity. You don't need to burn bridges or slam doors. Simply step back. Withdraw your time, your energy, your heart from those who treat it cheaply. Because the truth is, appreciation cannot be begged for. It must be felt, and it's often felt strongest when you are no longer there. In today's social media world, people are obsessed with being seen, validated, liked. But some of the most powerful moments in your life won't come from applause. They'll come from silence, from walking away with dignity, from letting the void you leave behind speak volumes. So if you find yourself being taken for granted, at work, in a friendship, in love, remember this: silence is not defeat. It's your declaration that your worth is not up for negotiation. Don't argue, don't beg, don't explain. Withdraw, and let them feel what they chose to ignore. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable lesson is taught not through presence, but absence. Part 6. When someone tries to provoke you. There's a unique kind of person in this world, one who thrives not on harmony, but on chaos. They poke, prod, and jab with words like daggers, not because they want a resolution, but because they crave a reaction. These are the provocateurs, and their battlefield is emotional. The more agitated you become, the more powerful they feel. The Stoics taught us a different path. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength lies in the stillness you choose when the world around you spins in manipulation and noise." Take the story of Adam, a young professional in a high-pressure finance firm. He had a colleague, Jeff, who never missed a chance to throw in sarcastic jabs during meetings. Early on, Adam would bite back. He'd try to argue, defend himself, sometimes even raise his voice. But every time, Jeff walked away with a smirk. Adam felt drained, not victorious. One evening, fed up and mentally exhausted, Adam reflected on a passage from Epictetus. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your words' mind is complicit in the provocation. The next day, he returned to work with a new resolve. When Jeff tossed his usual insult, Adam simply smiled, nodded once, and returned to reviewing his notes. No retort. No emotion. The silence was heavier than any insult. Jeff tried again, but Adam remained calm, unbothered, and centered. Within weeks, the jabs stopped. The audience Jeff played to, co-workers, began to notice Adam's composure, not Jeff's chaos. In that silence, Adam reclaimed his power. Now, travel back in time to ancient Rome, to a man named Cato the Younger. A senator, philosopher, and fierce defender of the Republic, Cato was known for his unshakable moral compass. His political opponents often tried to provoke him in the Senate, hurling insults, false accusations, and mockery. But Cato, in his famous Stoic demeanor, rarely responded. Instead, he would listen, fold his arms, and let the speaker exhaust themselves. Then, in a calm, measured voice, he'd return to the issue at hand, never personal, always focused. His enemies were infuriated. They wanted fire, and he gave them marble. His restraint made him formidable, respected, even feared, not for aggression, but for his inability to be shaken. Here's the deeper truth. People who try to provoke you are rarely interested in dialogue. They want dominance. And nothing steals power from a provocateur faster than being ignored. They feed on your reaction, like a parasite. Remove that, and they starve. It's not easy, especially when the insult hits something personal. But that's where your discipline comes in. You don't rise above by yelling louder. You rise above by refusing to kneel to emotional games. Let me give you one more story. A school teacher named Layla. She worked in a challenging district and had a student who constantly challenged her authority. He mocked her, talked back, disrupted class. Most teachers before her had screamed, sent him out, or punished him publicly. But Layla took a different route. Every time he acted up, she responded with a calm voice, patient gaze, and clear, consistent boundaries. No escalation, just still waters. Months later, that student stopped disrupting class. In a private conversation, he admitted that no one had ever refused to get angry with him before. It was the first time he felt truly seen, not battled. Provocation is noise. Stoic silence is signal. When someone tries to light a fire in your soul, offer them no spark. Let them burn out on their own frustration. So, when someone tries to provoke you, remember, you don't owe them a reaction. You owe yourself peace. And the one who keeps their calm owns the room. Final message: the power of inner silence. In the grand theater of life, there will always be moments when others misunderstand you, speak falsely of you, or even challenge your integrity. And in those moments, the instinct to explain, defend, or retaliate is overwhelming. But what if the most powerful response is silence? Consider Maria, a successful entrepreneur. She was betrayed by her closest business partner who siphoned funds and spread rumors when exposed. Instead of launching a social media war or going public with her outrage, Maria chose silence. She quietly walked away, started again, and within 2 years built a stronger, more transparent company. The partners' lies collapsed under their own weight. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Now, travel back to the Han Dynasty in ancient China. A general named Wei was wrongly accused of treason by political rivals. He said nothing in his defense. No outburst, no rebellion, just loyal service in exile. Years later, the emperor discovered the truth and summoned him back, restoring his honor and elevating him higher than ever. Wei's silence became his shield and his legacy. Silence is not passivity, it's not surrender, it's choosing not to fight battles unworthy of your peace. It's trusting that truth needs no megaphone and that karma, like gravity, doesn't need assistance to do its work. So, the next time someone wrongs you, pause, breathe. Resist the urge to prove, to argue, to chase. Instead, let your silence speak louder. Let your dignity echo in the space they can no longer reach. Because silence is not empty, it's full of strength, patience, and clarity. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need revenge to be respected. You only need to walk with peace and let karma do the rest.